Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new season of Start Right Here. We are the podcast that puts the spotlight on the career paths of BIPAC beauty professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives, as well as issues related to beauty and inclusion impacting us in the industry, as well as impacting consumers. I'm your host, Corinne Corbett, and I hope that conversations on this show help fuel your path to success. Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about juggling many things and doing it well. And I'm really happy to welcome one of my esteemed industry colleagues that I would say, grew up in the industry together. And she's gone on to, as I said, juggle many things. And we're going to talk about her career trajectory and moving from editorial to entrepreneurship and the many branches of entrepreneurship that she's tackled. I'm pleased to welcome Ken Van Dang, who is CEO of many things, and you're going to learn a lot about that today. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Um, I have a confession. It's my first podcast ever. I'm a podcast virgin, so this is a huge day for me.
Well, I'll be gentle. I'll definitely be gentle. Definitely be gentle. So let's start off in the with easy questions. Um, just for the love of beauty,
Yes.
what was the first beauty product you ever purchased?
Ah, um, well, it happened to have been a fragrance, and it was Jean Naté. Do you remember Jean
Yes.
Naté
Okay.
Body
Yes.
Splash? I must have been, gosh, 9 or 10, and there were the TV commercials on the air of, the model in the shower pouring. I assume she was in the shower, pouring huge bottles of it just all over her body. And my younger sister, and I begged our mom, like, please, please, we need this. And she took us to the drugstore. We got our bottle, and after an hour of being home, we said, we need more. And she said, what? And, we were so gullible as children. We did what the model did in the TV commercial. We used the whole bottle in one fell swoop, while
Oh my goodness.
dancing in the shower, thinking that's what you're supposed to do with this product.
Oh my goodness. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. But listen for the listeners that just hearing that her first purchase, her first memory is fragrance is going to play significantly in our conversation.
Well, I
So
have a coda to this story. Years later, when I was beauty director at InStyle, I was invited to an Estee Lauder fragrance launch party, and I was seated next to Karen Corey, who at the time was the head of fine fragrance for the whole corporation. And I confessed to her that, in my next life, I wanted to be a perfumer. And she said, what if there is no next life? And I thought, oh, well, then I'm really SOL, you know?
mhm.
And she said, well, why not this life? And I explained that every time I got to meet a perfumer, you know, um, in in the workplace, I would barricade the door to my office, and I wouldn't let them leave until they told me all their secrets about how they became a perfumer. And the story was usually the same, which is, they got accepted to this one and only accredited fine fragrance school in Versailles, outside of Paris, and called ISIPCA. And after studying there, they went to Grasse, and worked under some master perfumer as an intern for the next 10 years. And then that's how they became a perfumer. And I thought, okay, I'm really going to have to brush up on my rusty French. Second of all, they accept very few people into this one school in the world.
Right.
And third of all, I'm going to have to win the lottery because I'd have to, be a fragrance slave for 10 years. How was I going to get by? So that's why I said my next life.
Right,
And
right.
Karen said, I'm going to have somebody call you tomorrow. And next thing I know, this amazing man named Ron Winograd, who actually teaches the in-house perfumers at IFF in
Mhm.
New York City, called and offered to give me private lessons on perfumery. And I was completely floored by this offer. I said, "Well, I have a full-time job. How much time does this take? And you run a school, so do I sit in on your classes? When are they?" And he said, "Well, you're welcome to sit in anytime, but I understand, you have a full-time job." And oh, the other question I asked him was, "And what does this cost? Because I don't want to waste your time." And he said, "Listen, thank you for asking, but I'm quite well taken care of by IFF. I just want to pass my knowledge on to anybody who is passionate about perfume. And, why don't you come in every Thursday on my lunch break and I will teach you?" And yeah, one of the most amazing people I've ever met. And, definitely one of the best offers I've ever received. And when we sat down in person, face to face for the first time, he asked me the same question: "What was the first fragrance you ever wore?" And I said, "Oh, we really don't have to talk about that. It was nothing. It was something from the drugstore." Um, I was a little embarrassed, and he said, "No, tell me." And I said, "It was Jean Naté." And he said, "I created that."
Oh, wow. That is amazing. That is such a great story. That is such a great story.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Oh my god. That's amazing. So how did you end up in New York?
Ah, there was a publication called Sports Style, which Fairchild also published. And it was sort of the early days of extreme sports. I mean, the
Mhm,
X Games had just been invented.
mhm,
And so this magazine was going to be the nexus between, the fashion industry and the sports world. And technical sportswear had sort of just been invented as well. Like Ralph Lauren had just launched RLX,
mhm.
and I was offered the opportunity to go be the fashion editor at Sports Style. And this was my dream to come true, to come to New York. But when I arrived, uh, the editor who had brought me in was actually leaving his job, and a new editor was put in his place. And he and I did not see eye to eye on the direction the publication had to go in. And he made it, rather miserable for me. He limited me to 2 pages a month.
Wow. Okay.
And, you know, um, it was sort of tough. But all my real friends were on the other side of the newsroom, um, at Women's Wear Daily and at W. And they used to come over and say, "What are you doing on this side? Why are you not back writing for Women's Wear and W?" And Dana Wood, who is a dear friend of mine still today. She was
Same.
Yes, she was the beauty editor for W magazine at the time, and she reached out to me one day. It was a Friday, and she said, actually, it was Friday night. We had gone out for drinks after work, and she said, a beauty job has just opened in the beauty pod at Women's Wear Daily, and this is Pete Bourne's home phone number, and you need to call him this weekend and tell him you want to join his team. And I was terrified. I thought, you know, I'm not going to call this man at home on his weekend. But, she insisted, and I did. And I said, "Hi, Pete. This is Kim Van Dang. Dana Wood forced me to call you." But yeah, that's how I ended up in beauty, because I was sort of miserable in sportswear.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yes. That's interesting. So, working on a trade publication.
Mm,
So you did hard news,
yes.
work on trade publication. Then you went to consumer magazines. Tell me about transitioning. What is it like to transition?
Well, it was interesting because, I was used to filing stories daily, breaking news, right,
Right.
for trade paper. And I thought, what am I going to do in consumer land where, you know, this is going to be a cakewalk? Well, it wasn't. I actually had two job offers coming out of women's wear. And actually, I was not even coming out of women's wear. I felt like I had just arrived at the beauty desk when
Mhm.
two offers came in. One was from a hot new publication called InStyle Magazine,
Mhm.
um, founded by Martha Nelson. And the other was, the grande dame of magazines, Good Housekeeping, which had been around for 100 years at that point, helmed by Ellen Levine.
Okay.
These were both icons in the industry and certainly my personal heroes. And I knew I could learn from both women. And the question was, where was I going to go? And of course, everybody thought I was going to go to InStyle. And in fact, I went to Good Housekeeping. Reason being, Martha Nelson, she's such an awesome woman and so candid. During my first interview with her, she just came out right and said, "Listen, I'm sure you have good ideas, but we have finally crafted a formula for in-style beauty, and I just need a strong lieutenant to come in and run with my formula, and allow me to sleep at night because I've got many other fires to put out in other sections of the magazine." Meanwhile, I went to meet with Ellen at Good Housekeeping, and she said, "Help. It's the year 2000 and we're still stuck in the 1950s. And I want you to come in and blow everything up and reinvent Good Housekeeping beauty." And that to me was just so much more exciting of a prospect.
Absolutely.
So it was literally pushing a boulder up a hill for a year. But then the phone did ring again, and Martha Nelson did want to see me again. And that was amazing because I was not expecting that. And when I did sit down with her, of course, I came to this second interview armed with all of my tear sheets from Good
Mhm.
Housekeeping. And when I whipped out my portfolio, she said, "Oh, no, 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 you can put that away. You don't need to pull that out. I've been following your progress, and congratulations. You've done a great job at Good Housekeeping." And I said, "Thank you. And I want to say congratulations to you because InStyle magazine has blown up. It is the book, the
Right.
hot book. And she said, "Well, thank you, but that's why I called you in, because remember that formula I had for InStyle Beauty?" I said, "Of course." She said, "Well, it's been so successful that everybody has knocked it off. And I am now finally ready to hear your ideas for what to do with InStyle Beauty. We needed to evolve." And it was so amazing because I was able to go in, you know, with my own mandate on how to do my pages, and that is definitely fortuitous, but you know, just in hindsight, maybe no one had ever turned down Martha Nelson before. I don't know.
Jesus.
uh,
So you had like one page and then you could get it. You fought for other pages that could house people, but in style you had many pages.
I
So
would have 30, 40, 50 pages
right.
sometimes, because
So
those were the golden years in
right.
print publishing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how did you make that adjustment to going from like almost nothing to so much, so many pages to fill?
Well, I mean, I had a team and
Right.
it was fun. Elena Gage was the beauty editor under me, and
Mhm.
I had an assistant, and we were also able to bring in amazing freelancers when we needed. I mean, before she became beauty director at Vogue, Sarah Brown was one of my top freelancers.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
So let's talk about you as an entrepreneur. Let's transition into that. What made you transition into entrepreneurship?
Ah, well, I had been at InStyle for 6 years. When coming in, I really thought of it as, this is going to be a 5-year kind of job for me. And I was already in my sixth year, still going strong. By then, the tables had turned, and all of the top Hollywood actresses were chasing after me, asking to be in my pages. I mean, Julia Roberts wanted an InStyle beauty story.
Wow.
Well, you know why? You know why? Because they figured out very quickly that if they had these beautiful spreads, they could land a
Campaign.
beauty ad campaign. Yes, yes. Back then, when I made the announcement, all the other editors at InStyle came into my office and said, "What's branding? Congratulations! And what's branding?" And it wasn't until I remember being in the back of a taxi cab going down Fifth Avenue past an empty commercial building.
Mhm.
And instead of a big sign across, all of the plate glass saying for lease, this sign actually said branding opportunity. And that's when I realized branding had finally come into its own.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Um, what did you love most about the work?
Well, it's very creative and it utilized all of my editorial skills. You know, um, it was visual, it was copy, it was a vision.
Mhm.
And at first, all my clients were the big boys, um, the Estee Lauder brands, the L'Oreal brands, the Coty brands, the Procter and Gamble brands. Why? Because for years I had been giving them free advice.
Yes,
I
yes,
I
yes.
I knew something was wrong with the picture when, I would be invited to a fancy lunch at, I don't know, name the restaurant, La Goulou, Le Bernardin,
Yeah.
all of these fancy restaurants. And before, our orders would arrive to the table, the CEOs I was having lunch with would be whipping out notebooks and pens and firing questions at me on what they should launch next, or what did I think of this competing brand or that one.
Mhm.
And these were fun lunches for me because obviously I love the business of beauty. But when they started pulling out the notebooks, I was like, wait, something's wrong with this picture because they're getting $1 million ideas and I'm just getting a chicken salad. So,
No, it's very, very true. It's
so
very true.
that's when I
Woo.
realized this is something I could monetize. And another dear friend of mine in the industry who I confided in, James LaForce of LaForce and Stevens, a top beauty
Mhm.
PR agency. Um, James and I went out for dinner one night, and he started to talk about how I should position my new branding agency. He said, "You, my dear, are boutique." And I said, "Okay, I don't know what that means." And he said, "That means you are very in demand, you are very hard to find, you have an unlisted phone number, and even if someone finally figured out how to reach you, you're not really sure you could help them because you are so booked up, but you will get back to them." And I said, "James, this is either a completely brilliant idea, or I'm going to gain 300 pounds just, sitting on my sofa in my studio apartment, eating bonbons and watching Oprah." Luckily, the phone did ring. Um, uh, I took my assistant from InStyle with me, and we came up with this term because every afternoon the phone would ring, and it would be a new project, a new client, and we started to call it, the magic afternoon phone call. And it was amazing because I had made myself again indispensable to these industry giants. And when I disappeared, I had created a vacuum. And of course, it's a very incestuous, tight little circle we work in called the beauty industry. And, if I was spotted in the lobby of the Estee Lauder building, word would get out, and then I would get a call from L'Oreal because they're like, what is she doing over there? We need her over here."
Right. Right.
So work was plentiful and amazing until well, until the recession, the global recession. But I
Mhm.
digress. Even before that, the fun for me was being able to make a difference. I think that's always been the fun for me. Hence,
Mhm.
going to Good Housekeeping instead of Install at first. Um, Being able to make pivotal decisions that would help a brand reach a new audience or turn around sales or adopt a new paradigm. Um,
Right.
and
Right.
um, and that was fun. But what I learned as well is, these titans of our industry, they're like big ships, and it takes a lot of people and it takes a lot of time to turn a big ship even 1 or 2 degrees, right?
Got it.
Whereas I started getting inquiries from small little startups. And being an entrepreneur, I love entrepreneurs. And they all had fresh, fantastic ideas, except they'd never done it before. And they
Right.
didn't know our industry inside out like I did, and they needed help. And that was really the fun for me, was to build something from the ground up, not just help steer a ship 1 or 2 degrees, but, being able to shape, mold, craft,
Right.
and present something new to the world. And, so the first brand that I did that for is, Clark's Botanical Skincare
Mhm.
with Francesco Clark,
Yes.
and, yeah, it went on from there
So let's
until
talk
the recession.
Okay, so let's talk about the recession. And so, eh, what as entrepreneurs people don't talk about as much. And this actually came from somebody who knew I was interviewing you said, "Can you ask her about failure in tough times and how she handles them?"
Mm,
Um, because we no one has smooth sailing at all times. But yes, if you're running your own business, you have to figure out something. So what has helped you,
mm,
like in times of the recession and in times where things haven't worked out as you expected?
right. Well, that is certainly true what you just said. There's always challenges when, well, everywhere in the corporate world and as an entrepreneur. It's
Right.
just, what do you do? Um, and how fast you
What
do
did
it.
you do personally?
Yeah.
What did you do personally?
Okay. So, the global recession came, and literally overnight, all of my branding projects came to a grinding halt. Um, However, I had just met the love of my life, um, who's now my husband, Anthony Roberts, and we were getting married. And one of my best friends, a top perfumer in the world, Francis Kirkjohn from Paris, was supposed
Mhm.
to attend our wedding, except he had a last minute emergency and could not come. And instead, a little box from Paris arrived in the mail, and it was 2 little lab bottles labeled his and hers, which we wore to our wedding party. And of course, there were many beauty editors at my wedding, and all the editors wanted to know, "What are you wearing?" And it was such a gorgeous scent, and I had no answer for them. It came in a lab bottle.
Mhm.
And a week afterwards, Francis called from Paris to say congratulations and to ask, what did I think of these new creations of his? And I said, they're amazing. What brand is this? Because everybody's asking. And he said, well, um, I have an announcement to make. After creating all of these blockbuster fragrances for different designers. He was the one who created La Male for Jean Paul Gaultier.
Mm.
He also did Narciso Rodriguez. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
he lots of seminal fragrances. He
Mhm.
did Elizabeth Arden green tea, um, and he said, "I've decided to start my own fragrance house, my own maison, and I want you to run my business in North America." And I said, "Oh, well, I can." And then I launched into my menu of branding services for him.
Mhm.
And he said, "No, no, thank you. I got all that. I'm doing all of that out of Paris right now, but I want to, put my first shipment in the water across the Atlantic. And when it lands in New York, I want you to take over. I want you to run my business." And I said, "Oh, no, that's not what I do. That's not on the menu." And he said, "Don't say no so fast. Think about it." And I said, "Okay, but you know everyone in the industry as well. You need to do your diligence and go talk to other people who actually do this kind of work." So we went to our separate corners for a few weeks, but in that time, I realized that my brand new husband, Anthony, had all of the skill sets to help our friend Francis. Skill sets I did not have because he's a sommelier and he
Mhm.
was importing, you know, almost $2 million worth of wine into the US every year for all the top restaurants in Manhattan. Excuse me. And I sat Anthony down very quickly and I said, listen, we need to help our friend Francis. And you know how to import wine. And wine and perfume are very similar products. They are both luxury products that are alcohol based, that come in glass bottles, and that have a bouquet. How hard can it be? My ulterior motive, of course, was to be able to spend more time with my husband.
Right.
And if you have any friends or family in the restaurant business, you know it is a tough business and they literally live at the restaurant. They only come home to sleep for a few hours in between. And if you want to see them, you have to go to the restaurant. And I just wanted more quality time with him. So
Right.
it worked. It worked. And you know, we took the MFK collection to Bergdorf Goodman. Of course, you know, in all my years in the beauty industry, I had a nice Rolodex of all the top retailers. So it was just a matter of calling them up. I phoned Pat Saxby and I said, "Hey, Pat, I have something to show you. May I come in?" And she said, "Sure, come in." And we did our little presentation. She said yes immediately in the conference room. But even more so, she got on the phone while we were still in the conference room with her and then hung up and looked at us and said, "Okay, you know what you just did here? Get yourself on a plane to Dallas, Texas, and just do what you just did here over there." And that meant presenting to the Neiman Marcus team, which, you know,
Well,
were her counterparts at the
right.
parent company. So we did, and they said yes. And it was the global recession. I think it was the depth of the global recession, but we launched. And let me tell you, it's tough when, again, you're in a very young perfume culture called America, where people think of it as a luxury, not as a necessity.
Mhm.
And it was at the top of, you know, at the top price points. And
Right.
I remember there was a lovely man, Mr. Martins, who was the general manager of Neiman Marcus Beverly Hills. And I had actually known him from when I was an intern in the LA Bureau for Women's Wear Daily. And I phoned up Mr. Martins and I said, "Hi, I don't know if you remember me, but you know, I'm launching a new fine fragrance brand in America, and the Neiman Marcus buyers out of Dallas have already agreed to bring it on, and you know, we would like to come launch at Neiman Marcus Beverly Hills with you." He was very delighted to hear from me again, and he rolled out the red carpet. He said, "Listen, we are having a private party in the store for Christmas. I'm closing down the store early one evening, um, the week before Christmas, and it's a private shopping party just for, you know, our top clients." Um, there was a full orchestra greeting you at the door. There were champagne bars placed throughout the store. There was a runway fashion show they had put together. There were roving carolers. It, it was, you know, a huge investment for them to throw this party. And Mr. Martins gave me a very strategic table at the front of the beauty um, department. So you would
Mhm.
have to pass me before going to see any other brand. And I was placed right next to the tree and Santa Claus. Okay. Well, nobody came in that evening. It was the depth of the global recession, and it was scary.
Wow.
Santa Claus and I, you know, stared at each other all night. No one came and sat on his lap. I think I sold a few bottles. That was it. But, we knew that if we could survive that, we could survive
Right,
anything. And, it was a lot of investment, a lot of time, um, but, you know, we believed in the brand passionately, and Neiman Marcus believed in the brand passionately, and they understood about, um, having to bankroll us. They ordered more inventory than they needed, than was selling through, because we just had to weather that tough period, and it was a true partnership. And you know, uh, I remember Francis having to fly over to do personal appearances with me, at Neiman Marcus Houston, Neiman Marcus Chicago. And, sometimes there were very few people in store. And he would look at me like, Why am I here? What am I doing here?" And it was just like, "Take it easy." It's literally converting one client at a time, but, it builds.
right. And what's interesting is this pivot, this shift launched a whole new company for you
Yeah,
in terms of fragrance distribution.
well, yes, because, again, it's a very small club at the top of the luxury beauty world.
Mhm,
And, when people started to see the headway we were making with MFK, the phone started to ring. And, next up was Cire Trudon Candles. The general manager of the brand phoned from Paris and said, "Hey, I'd like to come to New York and take you out to dinner next week and discuss how you can represent us." And it built from there. We took that from a $200,000 a year business, to a multi-million-dollar business in 6 years. And, there were many other brands along the way. It's yeah, there's no secret. It's hard work. You know,
yeah, that's
it's a lot of
but
travel. It's a people business. You have to you have to do a lot of training. Again, my editorial skills kicked in. Cire Trudon was a huge collection. Um, and we made people launch with a minimum of 18 different scents. And these were all candles in green glass with gold labels.
mhm,
And when a customer would walk up to this counter looking at all of these candles that look the same, she wouldn't know where to start. And
right,
so I had to create a training protocol for the brand. And this was a brand that was patronized by kings: Louis XIV, the 15th, the 16th, Napoleon after the revolution. So I had a lot of rich material to work with.
mhm,
But again, I had to simplify the message to the end consumer.
right,
Again, is what I did at consumer magazines.
right,
So I came up with a device I called the three R's. So instead of reading, writing, and arithmetic, it stood for what the brand stood for, which was religion, royalty, and revolution. This was the arc of French history, and it was also the story of the brand. And we were able to divvy up those 18 SKUs under the three R's.
mhm,
And then it was just about storytelling and seducing people with scent after that.
right, right, and that's a very, so if you have a good product, they will be seduced, but there's a scent that may seduce them. Tell me how you find new brands to distribute. I mean, this is an ongoing process, so you must always keep your eyes open.
Yes. I mean, we pre-pandemic, we traveled extensively, to, different trade shows, but also just, networking. and having friends in the business who would say, you need to meet this one, you need to smell that. And, we developed a reputation. And soon enough, brands started reaching out to us and sending us mailings of their collections. One of the brands we discovered was through Facebook. Um, I got a
Interesting.
yeah, well, I got a Facebook email one day from a brand out of Turkey, the only luxury fine fragrance brand out of Turkey called Nishane out of Istanbul. And they wrote to me via Facebook and said, we would like to present our launch collection to you. What is the best address to send our products? I gave them our office address, and this little red box arrived, a very long little red box. And when I opened it, there were 18 little vials inside, something like that, 16 or 18 different scents. And I thought, wow, this is ballsy for a launch collection to launch
Right.
with that many references. And our sales team was in New York that week. So I told everybody that, we were going to do a smelling session. And I placed each vial out on the conference table, around the table. And each one came with a little card that described that scent. And I led the group and we smelled one by one. By the time I got to the fifth scent, I slammed my hand on the conference table and I said, "This is ridiculous." And everybody looked at me like, did Kim wake up on the wrong side of bed today? What's wrong? And I said, well, they are 5 for 5 right now. I like every single scent, and that never happens. So we actually got on a Skype call with them and signed them that day. So you never know where things come from.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
one of our best-selling brands for the past few years now has been Koki Koki, which originated in Tulum, Mexico. And the story there is I had originally met Nicholas Malville, the creator of Koki Koki, when he was a supermodel at New York Fashion Week. You know how exhausting New York Fashion Week is, right? It's like
Yes,
people think
yes.
it's so glamorous, but as an editor, you have your day job and your deadlines, but then you have to like schlep, especially, during the January Fashion Week, through ice and slush and run around tents backstage trying to get information, trying to get interviews. And then Carolina Herrera, Mrs. Herrera, decided to launch a new men's fragrance at the Frick Museum in a black tie ball during Fashion Week. And it was toward the end of Fashion Week. Like Fashion Week always ends like on a Friday. And this was like a Thursday night, 9 p.m.
Mhm.
invitation. And I groaned like, oh, I was so exhausted by that point and I didn't want to go, but it was my job. So I, went home, jumped into a ball gown, and showed up at the Frick. And lo and behold, met this very handsome Argentinian who told me that, you know, he had a beach house that he was building in Tulum, Mexico. And Tulum was still this paradise back then, this
Right.
pristine paradise where, the jungle met the sea. And there was no electricity. So it was magic. And we became friends, and he invited me down. And after some time, he turned his beach house into one of the first luxury boutique hotels on that stretch of sand.
Wow.
Yeah, but we were friends very early on when it was still his private beach house. And he had built this little outbuilding next to his beach house that he was turning into a little spa because he had many friends from Europe. and they would arrive jet lagged, and he wanted to be able to offer them a massage. So he started dabbling in mixing different essential oils. And that's where Nicholas and I left off. Remember the early days of cell phones where we all had this thing called a flip phone?
Yes. They
Well,
come.
yes, one day on Park Avenue, I flipped my phone into the middle of Park Avenue, and then a taxi cab promptly, ran right over it. And there was no cloud back then, so there went
Right.
all of my contacts, including Nicholas's number, and we lost touch for the next, I think 12, 13 years.
Mhm.
That was that, out of sight, out of mind, if you will. And then, uh, there was the, stressful year when Donald Trump was elected president, and protests erupted all over Manhattan, especially right around where Bergdorf Goodman is, because
Mhm.
Trump Tower was just down the street. And my husband, Anthony, said to me one day in December, he said, "Listen, you need to book us a nice vacation because it's been such a stressful year. And why don't we go to Tulum? Because you always talk about it, and I've never been there." And I was like, "Say no more. I'm on kayak." And in the back of my head, I was hoping to look up Koki Koki
Mhm.
and find Nicholas. But when we arrived, the Koki Koki hotel had closed on the beach by that point. But we met some new friends on the beach, and they invited us to a colonial town in the middle of the Yucatan jungle called Valladolid. They invited us there for New Year's Eve for dinner. And we had no plans, so we thought, why not? And it turned out where they booked the dinner happened to be across the street from a Koki Koki boutique hotel, perfumery, and spa. And I was
Wow.
I was so, awed when I saw that, and I asked Anthony to go ahead and order for me while I ran across the street to explore. And, what I encountered just made my jaw drop. He had turned Koki Koki into a whole universe. There were perfumes, there were candles, there were bath and body oils. He made his own chocolates and honeys and teas and um, perfumes. And I was completely mesmerized. And I went up to the store manager and I said, "Excuse me, is this company still owned by a model named Nicholas?" And the general manager said, "Why, yes, but he's not here right now. He's in Bora Bora building his fifth perfumery hotel and spa."
Wow.
And I said, "Wait, he turned into Andre Balazs while I wasn't looking?" um, the general manager gave me pen and paper. I wrote a quick note to Nicholas. And 24 hours later, Nicholas emailed from Bora Bora and said, "Kim, I can't believe you're in Tulum and I'm not there to play tour guide. Um, my family and we have decided to move permanently to French Polynesia. And I Googled you, and it looks like you have a fragrance distribution company now, and I need you to run North America for me."
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's how that happened. So
So what's really interesting there is, it is for people that are listening, when you meet people, you don't always look for what you want. You making connections are important, and from authentic connections can come opportunity. It's not, "I'm meeting you because I wanna get something from you sometime," but getting to know people and sharing some common interests can lead to some great opportunities.
it's all about the human connection. That's it. That's the beginning and the end. we have a saying for our team in fragrance distribution. We always say, people buy people and then they buy product.
That is
Obviously,
amazing.
obviously, the product has to be amazing, has to be high quality, but it's building that connection. Everything is a relationship, between the brand owners and us, between us and the retailers, and really with the people on the ground, with their teams, and how those people tell our story and connect to the end consumers. It's all relationships.
It's so true. So, on top of running a fragrance distribution company, you also opened a retail store.
I did. This was almost 5 years ago now. We were able to um, purchase a modest beach house in Sag Harbor, New York, in the Hamptons during the double dip of the global recession. That was the only way we got our foot in. But real estate was a buyer's market then, and we made a very lowball offer, and we're just lucky that the owners said yes. But it was our weekend house, and it was definitely, a fixer upper. And we had it for several years when we were walking through town one day, again during the off season, like January, and we saw a for rent sign in this building on Main Street. It's number 8 Main Street in Sag Harbor. And coincidentally, Donna Karen had just purchased the building across the street from us, what this space looked out onto.
Mhm.
And it was, a diamond in the rough. It had been used mostly as a pop-up space for
Okay.
many years. And Anthony looked at me and he said, "Would you like all our brands to sit in a dark New Jersey warehouse, or shall we put them in the light of day in front of all the right eyeballs this summer?" Which was like, duh. When you put it that way, so really it was his idea. He really pushed me into retail, but we had signed our 10th brand at that point. And so there was enough product to put into a store.
Right.
And we thought, you know, um, even though we were in all of the top stores in the city, when people are in the city, they're busy, they're working. They don't really have a lot of free time for shopping. And when they're in the Hamptons, maybe the husband is busy playing golf or something, and the wife is bored. She has time to shop. Or in the city, you run out of your La Mer face cream, and maybe you have your assistant go pick it up for you, right? Or you get it online. Um, but in the Hamptons, again, you have that downtime.
Mhm.
More open. You're more in vacation mode, even if it's only for the weekend, and it's an opportunity to discover new things. So we thought, let's try. I mean, we're selling artisanal candles and perfumes, and not everybody comes to the beach looking for that, but the price was right, the space was right. It's an experiment. And so, yeah, you take a risk. I have to put a personal guarantee on the lease, but I did. And again, it's converting one person at a time. And there are no artisanal fragrance stores in the Hamptons. So we we were the first. And
That's pretty amazing.
yeah, and it's 4 years now. We just re-upped our lease for year 5. We call it Havens because that's the name of the only the only beach in in Sag Harbor proper,
Mhm.
Havens Beach, and we live off of Havens Beach. So, and then the idea of a haven, a sanctuary, it was sort of the perfect name. So I call it Havens by KVD. And we started a website too called ilovehavens.com.
Perfect.
And yeah, we have fun. It's a concept store, so we bring in lots of brands. It's a laboratory for us too, to test out new brands, because we get approached by so many brands. And um, I mean, I certainly have my industry expertise and my gut feelings about things, but you know it's good to get feedback. So
Absolutely.
we
It's like a focus group,
yeah.
meets retail environment for you.
Absolutely. And
So
then what makes it exciting too is we love supporting local artists. So we bring that element into the store as well. And it's just been amazing, because I liken it to, like, opening up your living room to the world. Like, all sorts of people walk in. You have no idea who's walking in, and they're usually in, tank tops and flip-flops
right.
and shorts. But, there was this man who came in a few summers ago with his big dog on a leash and tank top, shorts, flip-flops. And he only maybe was three steps into the store. I was clear on the other side of the store, and he let out a huge yelp, and I thought, oh my god, what's wrong, what happened? And he had, just started looking around, and he said to me, I pride myself on knowing all the cool artisanal brands, but I don't know any of the brands in here. How did you do it?
Wow.
And he turned out to be the managing director of all of the Ace hotels. you
Wow.
know and things like that happen every day. There was a woman who came into the shop one day and started critiquing how my lighting job in the store. She said, you have this light in the wrong place because it's right on top of the product and it creates this shadow, and what you should do is, move your lighting away from the wall so it could shine back at your products. And I said, hi, how are you today? And your name is, like, who are you walking into my shop and critiquing me right off the bat? Well, it turned out she is a top lighting architect, and she has been responsible for lighting all of the Apple stores in the world, working directly with Steve Jobs. And once
Wow.
she told me that, I was like, okay, what other free advice do you have for me? Come, hit me.
That is so funny. So,
Oh.
in all of this, we talked at the top of the show. I said Kim is CEO of many things, right? We've talked about havens, we've talked about fragrance distribution, we've talked about branding, but that's not all you're doing. You're about to launch something.
Mm,
You are launching something very special. So I'm gonna give you the floor to tell us about it.
thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And this is a big deal. I think after I put on this last hat, I will have maybe done everything in the beauty industry short of my own podcast, but I leave that to you. Okay, so next month, um, I will be a brand owner, a brand founder and owner. We are launching Van Dang fragrances. Yeah, yeah. Um, this is our motto: be in the now. Um,
Beautiful.
thank you. I love our logo, which my husband designed for me. Um,
Mhm,
it's very very playful, very different, but still
mhm.
chic and simple. And I especially love our logo bug.
Yes.
because he placed the D on its side, and,
Oh,
so you
wow, yes.
yes, so you can well, you can read this in many different ways. So some people, when they see this logo bug, they think of, like, a TV set with rabbit ear antennas.
Yes.
Yes, um, but also, if you look closely, you maybe see a vessel with diffuser reed sticks.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
That's what you saw.
Yes.
Okay, there is something else you can see this as. If the V was a nose
Yes,
dipping
yes, yes.
into a perfume vessel, perhaps,
Mhm.
smelling something. And then finally, if you know me well and if you've ever received an email from me, my sign off is always peace KVD. So this is the
Ah,
sign.
yes.
Yeah, we had fun with that. We are launching our own luxury home fragrance brand. This is a brand that's going to grow, and we have plans to launch bath and body products and fine fragrance next year, 2022. But we're
Mhm.
starting with home fragrance because that is such a hot business. For the last 2 years, we've all been stuck at home,
Right.
working from home, studying from home, not able to travel. So, home fragrance has just been exploding for us as a distribution company. But Anthony and I actually started working on Van Dang fragrances over 3 years ago when no one had any inkling that a global pandemic was headed our way.
Right.
And I just feel so grateful that finally we seem to have uh, conquered that challenge of uh, global magnitude, and that there are vaccines, and that people are able, still with some restrictions, but for the most part, able to get back to their lives. But
So how many scents are in the collection?
we are launching with 6 fragrances, and we are launching them in 4 different formats. So let me show you. I'm going to introduce you to Van Dang fragrances. This
S
is
Packaging is fantastic. The
Yes,
vessel.
this is our candle vessel,
Wow.
and yeah, I give Anthony all the credit for this. It's handmade porcelain. It is inspired by mid-century modern design, which is a love of ours. It comes with a lid, and it comes, more importantly, with this little reveal and a thick base. Why did we do that? Um, we understand the luxury client very well. And we know that she just keeps her candle burning for hours on end. She doesn't really follow directions. And while that's very good for replenishment sales, when you burn a candle for hours on end and you get toward the bottom, it gets very hot. Basically, all the wax has liquefied by that point.
Mhm.
And over the years, for other beautiful brands that we've represented, we have had to deal with insurance claims for people's, furniture getting damaged. A hot candle can leave a ring, on your wood top table. We've had to, deal with claims for leather top desks and chagrin consoles that have been ruined. So we decided to eliminate that problem altogether because there is this modernist reveal. The hottest part of the candle never touches your table surface. As well, it's a large candle. This is actually
Mhm.
100 grams. This is an 80-hour burn time.
Wow.
And so we didn't want it to look heavy and clunky. So, in modern architecture and furniture design, sometimes they they use this element where they add a little reveal at the base of a
Mhm.
wall or of a console, and that is to make the piece cantilever, to make it look like it's floating. And we decided to add that feature here, so there's a visual lightness of being. And
Mhm.
finally, we made sure the porcelain is very fine, so that when you light your candle, the whole vessel glows like a lantern from the
Wow.
yeah. So that's the candle.
Mhm.
We have we're a startup. We're a small little artisanal um, brand, and
Mhm.
most small brands do not start out with their own custom designed vessels.
Right.
We decided that was important to distinguish ourselves and to solve the problems I just spoke of. But how we were able to make it possible is that we use the same vessel as our reed diffuser.
Smart.
So basically, the lid, uh,
Mhm.
we have a logo coin that nests in here for the candle, so that it's a covered lid. But for
Mhm.
the reed diffuser, we don't add that coin, so your reeds can fit right in.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's two purposes, because especially at first we don't know which is going to sell faster, candles
Right.
or diffusers. So it's dual purpose for us. And the organic texture on it is something we're very proud of too. This was very difficult to achieve, but it just makes it an iconic product. There was a lot of
Right.
discussion as to, do we put the Van Dang logo and where would it go? Maybe here, but um, in the end, we decided, what, this is a piece of sculpture for your home, and
Mhm.
we don't want to ruin it with a logo as much as we love our logo. So, yeah, you have to put yourself in the consumer's shoes and
Right.
figure out, what does he or she want. There is also a room and linen mist, and then a small little uh, oil dropper bottle in the brand. And
Mhm.
these, they look like black glass, but when you put it
Mhm.
under bright light, you'll see it's actually a dark violet glass. We import these from Scandinavia. It is called biophotonic glass. And what is that? It's a dark purple glass that does not allow any UVB rays to penetrate. What that means is your formula inside stays very well preserved. The shelf life is amazing. But
Mhm.
what's even more cool is it does allow certain UVA rays and infrared light to enter. And what those do is they actually animate the organic compounds in our formula, so that, in short, your scent stays fresh and lively.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
They
That's really
actually
cool.
did an experiment where they took a cherry tomato, and they had a biophotonic dark violet glass jar, and they had a clear jar, and they put a cherry tomato into each one, and they waited 7 months. And I kid you not, at the end of 7 months, the one in the dark violet jar was still a bright red whole cherry tomato, and the other one was like gray mush.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
so
Scary gray
yeah,
mush.
like I said, we pulled out all the stops. We really did our homework, because you know my name is on it,
Right.
and we have a reputation. So
And it's fragrance.
and it's fragrance. Finally, this is a very special product. This is a porcelain vessel. it's a platform that my husband
Mhm.
designed. Again, just slightly larger in diameter than
The
the candle
candle?
vessel. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, uh, are you still around? Yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
I can see it.
Okay. Um, so this is slightly larger in diameter than the candle vessel. It's still the same idea with the reveal and
Mhm.
the thick base, but what's really cool is it has a slight concave top, and we glazed it glossy. So it's matte on the outside and glossy on the inside. And why is that? That's because it's a pedestal for your crystal, and in your crystal meditation kit, you also get the oil dropper bottle. So it's a three-piece set. And what you
Mhm.
do is every day you just take a moment for yourself. You place a drop or two of your favorite oil onto your crystal of choice to charge your crystal. And you take that moment to do a quick meditation, um, to kind of, be still, to focus on your breath, and maybe to put out into the universe what you would like to invite into your life. And that mindfulness, that intentionality will help you to manifest your dreams.
Beautiful. Beautiful idea. And how many crystals do you have
Oh,
available?
yeah. So you can choose from 7
Hold on one
different
second.
crystals and 6 different scents, as I mentioned. So that is 42 different crystal and oil combinations available to you. Now, I do have, you know, my favorite suggestions of pairings, but yeah, you
Mhm.
can do whatever you want. So, for instance, this is smoky quartz,
Mhm.
which is really good at being a very protective stone. So, if you
Mhm.
have any physical issues, or even mental or emotional issues, like if you have really bad nightmares, this is a great crystal to keep near you, especially on your night table at night. We have a friend whose husband is undergoing open heart surgery. So she reached out to me and asked if she could, get the crystal meditation set with the smoky quartz for her husband to help him get through his surgery.
Mhm.
And this is clear quartz, and this is
Mhm.
sort of a universal stone. It's called a master healing stone. And what it does is it's super healing, but it also, think of it as like a booster. It helps amplify the power of any other crystal you have near it. So this is another good one. But there are 7 crystals to choose from: rose quartz to invite love into your life, um, citrine to incite creativity. One of my favorites is fluorite, and it's this beautiful pale green color. And that one is very grounding, but it also helps with intuition. And then amethyst helps give you inner strength and
Mhm.
courage. And finally, black tourmaline, which absorbs negative energies to keep them at bay.
This is fantastic, fantastic. And what I love about what you've just shown us, not only is the packaging gorgeous and the thoughtfulness that you in terms of the design, but the crystals are huge. I mean, like the substantial size.
They
So
are.
how do you source these? I mean, I think didn't you on the phone you were driving around looking for
Yeah.
crystals? Or
Well, first of all, I have a little disclaimer. This stuff comes out of the ground,
right,
and so we can't guarantee that it's always going to be this shape or this clarity or this color or necessarily even this size, but
right.
we're trying to make them as uniform as possible. Um, so crystals come from all over the world. Some of the places that we source from include Madagascar, Africa, Brazil. Brazil is a huge has a huge industry for mining crystals. So yeah, they come from all over the world, as do our fragrance oils. Um, I want to talk about that for a second.
Mhm.
At Van Dang Fragrances, we are championing a concept we are calling farm to fragrance. In the same way, in cuisine, you have farm to table.
Yes.
For us, it's literally working directly with farmers who are out in the fields picking the petals and turning them into beautiful fragrance oils, and being able to work with them directly through our partner at International uh, Flavors and Fragrances, IFF. They have a division based out of Grasse called LMR, that is Laboratoire Monique Remy. And the team at LMR are the ones who create this direct supply chain. Um,
Okay.
it's a very transparent supply chain, and the farmers that they do business with basically sign a pledge. Um, they pledge not to use any pesticides, and they pledge to farm in a sustainable way. And there's no middlemen. And maybe most important to Anthony and me, to Van Dang Fragrances, is the promise that, for doing all of that hard work, it is a fair trade product. We want to make sure these farmers get a living wage. We want to support these farmer communities. And we think of it as an incredible privilege to be able to connect these farmers directly to our end consumers.
So beautiful. So, where will our listeners be able to talk about where you're launching and where they'll be able to buy the Van
Yes.
Dang fragrances?
So first of all, we will only be launching in mid-November. We are in the middle of production right now, and I'm speaking to you from our factory in South Carolina, and we're hard at work on our first production run, and everything's made in America. And we will be launching with Bergdorf Goodman as our department store launch partner, and we are so excited by that because we want to be part of this New York is back movement.
Right.
And over the last 12 years, Bergdorf Goodman and Neiman Marcus have been incredible partners for us. It did start with MFK and Sir Trudon, but it's come full circle, and they so believe in this project. And because of COVID, so many of the smaller artisanal brands have been have either gone out of business or have been cut out of the offerings at Bergdorf's. So you're kind of left with just the big brands, and
Right.
we're an artisanal brand. So for them to give us the commitment is huge, and they went deep and big into this brand as well.
Lovely. Lovely.
Yeah, as well, it's a small, slow rollout. We're gonna be expanding much faster in the new year, but this is the first time out of the gate, and we wanna get it perfect. And, like I said, all of our vessels are handmade. So,
You're amazing.
yeah, so we are limiting how many doors we're opening with, and it'll only be, marquee, independent doors in
Hmm.
key cities across the country. So, for instance, the conservatory, um, at Hudson Yards, uh,
Uh huh.
in New York will be launching with us, and they have a store as well in Dallas. We're super excited about that. Another door is Marissa Collections in Naples. Um, We will be opening when the season starts up in Miami with Curio at Faina Bazaar. Sotre, which is a lovely, lovely store in New Orleans, is a launch partner. And Tesoro is a luxury gift store in Beverly Hills. And I do want to mention as well the Paris Market, which has two locations in Savannah and in Palmetto Bluff.
So for our listeners, no, this is a multi-part episode, as you probably know. You're listening to part two right now. But what we'll have in the show notes is links to the stores, links to the fragrances and the information so that you can find not only Van Damme fragrances, but also the brands that Kim has mentioned before as well, because it's lots of information, such good, juicy information that we've been
Yeah.
sharing over the
And
last couple of
we've also just launched our own website. It's vandangfragrances.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. So, as a woman who wears many hats, what's the unsung skill to getting things done
Mm.
and succeeding in wearing many hats?
Well, a single skill is is
Or
uh,
you can
is
give multiple skills
sleeping
because
very few hours. Uh, I have a good friend, Nina Cooper, and her hashtag in all of her posts is "Sleep when you die," which I believe was also something that um, Donatella Versace is like often quoted saying.
Yeah, well, that put that that makes a lot of sense because you've got a lot of balls in the air, lots of them,
Yeah,
and
and then being able to delegate, having a strong team who you're close to, who you support, um, having a wonderful partner, my husband in most cases, and then in Havens, I have a fashion designer partner, Diego Benetti. So he does all of the dresses and accessories for the store, and I do all of the curation for home fragrance and fine fragrance. Yeah,
wonderful.
it's surrounding yourself with people you love and trust. People
Yes,
comes back to people.
people. Comes back to people. Okay, so for our last section, our starting five, our top, tips we want to leave our listeners. So if you manage to turn your love of fragrance into
Yeah.
several viable businesses, like, can you give listeners 5 tips on how to work your passion?
Okay. One is believing in yourself. Trust your gut instincts. Um, Two is being very focused. Um, you know, Lots of opportunities come our way every day. It's about recognizing them, but then also choosing the one that is most true to you and your passion and your skill set. I think people are often sidetracked by money or comfort or ease or something they think they should be doing because their parents always steered them that way, or their partner steered them that way, or it's for someone else, for your family, but it's not true to you and who you are. And I always feel if you are true to yourself, you can be much more effective and thus successful. um, Obviously time management has to be in there too.
Right.
um, you know and that's about For me, it's Google Calendar with alerts.
Right.
Set out my tasks for the day, the week, the month, and I guess the last piece is the big picture, the vision piece. Keep your eye on the ball, on the ultimate goal. So,
That's fantastic. I can't thank you enough for joining me, for spending this quality time, like digging deep and giving people, especially our listeners, insight into like all the areas of beauty that you talked about and all the areas of your career that you've had a chance um to find success and also be challenged and grow through. Uh,
thank you for this opportunity to discuss all of it. Honestly, you know, it looks fantastic in hindsight, but at any given moment, you only know what you know, and it's about one foot in front of another. It's about trusting your gut and taking chances. I mean, entrepreneurship is nothing if not, taking risk, but no risk, no reward, right?
exactly.
And life is short, and you have to try,
There's no other alternative. The alternative is to do nothing, you have to try. And I
or
think that's
stay where you are and be bored and complain, but that's no fun.
right. So thanks again.
Thank
I
you.
That's our show for today. If you have questions about where to start in your beauty career, drop us a line at hello@beautybizcamp.com. Remember, there are many roads to success, but each of them requires you to start. So take that step forward today. See you next time.